Hello and welcome to Around the Lens, episode 89. I'm your host, David J. Murphy. With me this week is my co-host, Ron Hamilton. Ron.
Hey, everybody. I just want to remind everybody to like, subscribe, and give us a 5-star rating on iTunes or wherever you get your podcast audio.
That's right. This is a podcast. Around the Lens is a live weekly visual journalism roundtable show coming at you every Monday night around 8 p.m. Eastern. And we talk about the news topics and gear related to the world of visual journalism. This week, we've got a lot of great topics to talk about. We're going to talk about the hurricane. We're going to talk about some new camera equipment. We're going to talk especially about resolution and sensor size. But first, I want to introduce our panelists this week. Panelists, why don't you go and introduce yourself?
Hi, guys. My name is Jane Kathleen Gregorio. I'm a freelance journalist. My work has been featured in Corpus Christi Business News, coincidentally, like the site of Hurricane Harvey, and as well as helping with productions for Eagle Broadcast News.
All right, great. We're glad to have you and glad that you're safe and sound.
Thank you.
You're reporting to us from Corpus Christi. So why don't we go ahead and just start right into it and talk about the hurricane, of course, the big news of this week and weekend, and continuing on news. So why don't you go and tell us a little bit about your story so far, kind of like leading up to the hurricane, what you've been doing since the hurricane hit, and sort of what you're doing now.
Okay, sure. Well, we only found out about the hurricane literally just like 2 to 3 days before. In fact, when I first heard about it, when my husband told me that, there was a hurricane coming and everyone is panic buying at the grocery store, it's like, it's just one of those things, one of those urban legend. No, I'm just kidding. But when I guess the seriousness of it started to hit home, as following the news channels and how this was going to be a hurricane of historic stature. Because here in Corpus Christi, where I live in the Texas Coastal Bend region, it's been several decades since the last major hurricane ever hit this part of Texas, because our position on the Gulf of Mexico is kind of further away from the Caribbean, from that whole danger zone of hurricanes, so we hardly get touched by that. So when this was about to when this was, we were anticipating this, the city pulled together, evacuation routes were established. There were shelters that were away from the city itself. Everyone, like water, everyone was like buying, literally emptying the shelves of water and non-perishables, as well as things like, air mattresses, toiletries, everything that they could think of. And so, of course, water shortages aren't, we're actually used to it here in Corpus Christi because we've always had, issues with water contamination or problems with, water because, we're right where we're at, we're near the oil refineries. So, so it's something that we're used to, but, we were, everyone was, really panicked about, like how this hurricane was going to affect their houses and so forth. So for myself, as soon as the news hit, I was contacted by some of the publications I normally write for and also do video productions for, such as Eagle News in the Philippines, as well as Corpus Christi Business News, which is one of the papers I write for. And so I actually had to just make sure like my phones were charged, my cameras were charged. And, because a situation like this needs instant data, instant information, it's not so much maybe like the high definition quality. You're more on the go, when you're reporting. So often I had to just, give my editors, just footage from my cell phone. And when it came down to it, when we lost electricity on Friday, like at that point, whatever battery was left in my cell phone, I actually had to keep charging it in my car, and whatever we could take on our footage, I just used my cell phone and just we did video on-camera reports, using the cell phone, and for the most part, we were able to produce a pretty thorough story news package, just using, just relying on our cell phones for the time being, because we didn't have internet connection, like the Wi-Fi wasn't working. We literally had to rely on whatever networks, that was being provided, that was still working, through our mobile technology.
Right.
Yeah, so that's pretty much how it's been. So in between the power outages, it's always reporting on every single thing that was happening, whether it was the calm before the storm or the actual hurricane. I actually had to go out in the rain and get some really dramatic footage. Well, I mean, whatever was taking place. And then later on, the aftermath, the communities coming together to help neighbors rebuild. And so it's this past 3 to 4 days since Hurricane Harvey almost hit us, but then took a swerve right before it pulverized several smaller towns like Rockport, Port Aransas. But as soon as it was about to hit Corpus Christi, suddenly it veered off and it headed towards the east, towards the Houston area, which now, they're experiencing major floods from this. But, the aftermath that we received in Corpus Christi was actually surprisingly very minimal. And to date, the governor, Greg Abbott, and also Senator John Corwin, and as well as one of the FEMA administrators, they came today to Corpus Christi, to the Texas Department of Public Safety, to hold a press conference and explain the next plan of action that we'll be doing. So that's been my my weekend. It's been a whirlwind weekend, so to speak.
All right. Wow. Well, that's very interesting. Glad you're safe. Speaking of hurricane, we've got another guest who's just popped into the show, getting his headphones set up. Going to be talking to us a little bit about his experience. Get set up here. I'm going to give him a minute. Marcus, can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. We're like you're like the weather guy. Can you hear me?
Yes. All right. So you are the only thing standing between me and food after literally 3 days of straight work. This is
my gosh.
My first hot meal. So this is going to be super quick.
Super quick. Tell us about your experience.
So the most important thing for people to know about covering this hurricane as a photojournalist is that this is not a beginner hurricane. This is a Category 4 that decided to hang around for a really long time, and that's not good. On by now. It was supposed to be gone a day and a half ago, and there are people that are completely and utterly flooded out of their homes. And getting access to that story as a videographer, as a photographer, is so dangerous. And if you come in and you don't know, and even if you know exactly what you're doing and you still get really unlucky, you can still get trapped and have to call 911 and take away people that actually need it. That hasn't happened to me, thank God. I know somewhat what I'm doing. This is hurricane number 7 for me, but this is definitely not a student hurricane. And I've seen a lot of people, I've gotten a lot of text messages from, student journalists saying, hey, I want to come to Texas. How do I do this? How do I get an assignment? Here's my message to them. Don't come. Go to a tropical storm. This is not a place for you.
So Marcus, how does this compare to Hurricane Sandy, where we first met?
Hurricane Sandy. This one is actually a little bit worse than Hurricane Sandy in terms of the actual, the risk to coverage. It's of you while doing coverage. Hurricane Sandy was unique in that it hit like a major metropolitan area, specifically New York. Of course, this one hit a somewhat major metropolitan area, but
only the 4th largest city.
Sandy was easier. Sandy was definitely easier, and there's a lot more urgency, and a lot more people are really in trouble. Or rather, I saw a lot more people really in trouble with this particular hurricane.
So what have you been doing specifically, like since you got on the ground? What was your sort of like preparation before the hurricane? What have you been doing since the hurricane started, and what do you plan to do in the coming days?
So my assignment desk flew me in before the hurricane actually hit. I put myself right in the path of the hurricane. hunkered down, got hit, went outside, shot a bunch of search and rescue. I've pretty much just been shooting short search and rescue and telling that story for the past couple of days. And for the next couple of days, it's going to be the exact same thing. The only message I have for preparation is bring a full-on waterproof housing for your camera. Don't screw around with these rain jackets. This is not something that's gonna be defeated by a rain jacket. You got to bring something that can actually go underwater.
So I can't just take a garbage bag, a rubber band, and just wrap it around my lens? That's not going to be good enough?
I tried that. I'm getting error 00 now, so things are getting sporty.
What are you shooting with down there now?
I've actually been shooting. So right now I've been shooting the Mix 100 and my cell phone. And actually, when I pull up the footage on my computer and I look at the stuff side by side, the stuff shot with the cell phone it looks a hell of a lot better.
Really? Wow, that's amazing. And how are you transmitting? Are you using like hotel Wi-Fi? Are you like using your cell phone, mobile hotspot? Or do you have a satellite?
So we actually have full cell service. No, full cell service, full electricity everywhere down here. That's another thing that's unique about this compared to Sandy. With Sandy, transmission was always a problem, but with this hurricane, everybody has full cell electricity. Even houses that are up to like the 3rd floor in flooding that I saw today, with people in like water boats. Like, all right, come on, jump from the balcony. Even they still in their home under floors of water.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. So you're at a hotel right now, I'm guessing. You're the hotel you're staying at, or like a dining facility or something?
I'm finally at a hotel. No, it took a lot of work to get here, and this is actually one of the few hotels that actually has rooms specifically because you have to drive through 3 feet of water in order to get to it. The water was up to the hood of my car while trying to get here. But all right, that's it for me. I gotta eat. I desperately have to eat. It's been literally 3 days.
All right, well, stay safe out there. Get some food, and we'll hopefully talk to you again after all this is said and done.
Thanks. Great talking to you.
See you later, all right, see you later, Marcus. Bye.
Well, short but sweet.
That's right. That's how I like to remember Marcus. Short but sweet. No, I'm sure it'll be fine. Shame you couldn't stay on and talk to us a little bit longer, but always good to hear from somebody in the field, as well as yourself, Jane. So, any thoughts from you?
Yes, so I just had a few questions for Jane regarding her production. I don't know if you got to see her videos or not, but Jane, I wanted to know, when we're in the field, it's a common problem to have to worry about wind noise on a microphone, but you were in a hurricane, and for the most part, you managed to do pretty good, not letting the wind affect your audio. For the most part, you had a few glitches there, but for the most part, I just wondered what you were doing to prevent the noise, the wind noise.
Well, it wasn't anything, definitely was not anything fancy. All I did was I just angled literally when I did my news coverage is I literally just did like selfie style on my cell phone. And I held, because I guess the microphone, I'm not sure exactly where it's here, but I had to hold like my cell phone when I was doing my on cams in such a way where, I was facing, like where the wind wasn't like going into the mic, it was like, like opposite direction. So and then plus I just talked really loud. So, and surprisingly, like, today's mobile technology, it just, the HD quality is just surprising. It will make for passable video and audio. And when you're in a hurricane, it's not really, well, it's not really expected that you're going to have the time to really set up, your fancy equipment and tripods and whatever. You have to just catch whatever you can on the go, on the fly. So that's kind of what I did. So nothing fancy about it. I would have wished I could have had a lapel mic, but it was just there was just so much rain. It was just, we just had to just get whatever we could on the fly.
It's funny you mention it, and Marcus mentioned it both. How they essentially were surprised by the quality of cell phone imagery, and just as a tool being able to capture in a disaster, it seems almost like the tool of choice when it comes to everything else, because it's there, you have it, and it shoots pretty decent quality content, right? It's like, it sounds like if I'm going to go into a hurricane next time, I'm just going to take my cell phone, call it good.
Right, and because you have your fancy DSLR and your HD cameras, like I mean, heaven forbid that gets waterlogged, and that's especially those are $1,000 equipment and lenses. But your cell phone, most of the time, it's insured, so if something happens to it, you can get it replaced easily. Plus, most of, well, at least the Samsung S7, I think this Edge, I think it is kind of somewhat water resistant, so it really worked in a pinch.
You have your cell phone insured? Oh, that's not me. Yep. No insurance on my end.
Let the chips fall where they may.
Yeah, whatever's going to happen, happens. You know what I'm saying? I'm not paying $12 a month for insurance. Forget that. Which, by the way,
I have to.
Don't ever break that screen, because
the way I go through cell phones, I have to have insurance on my stuff. When I covered, what's that?
Why are you going through cell phones so easily?
My God, I'm dangerous with cell phones. If I'm not throwing them at people who make me angry, I just dropping them in toilets or whatever. I got a bad track record with cell phones. Damn. Even back when I used to buy the unlocked phones on eBay because America didn't have decent smartphone technology. Even back in those days, I was breaking them, paying $450, $500 a piece back then. I go every 6 months or so, I break a phone.
Jeez.
But she's right with the cell phones. When I covered, what was it? A tropical storm here in Hawaii anyway, if you've seen the video. I used my cell phone. I whipped it out. In fact, I called the station first. I said, hey, I'm in the middle of a tropical storm. I didn't realize it was going to be this bad, but I can get footage if you guys want to run it. And they said, give us a story. So I walked home through the storm with my cell phone, catching shots of people dealing with flooding and raining and all that stuff that was going on. And I turned in my story with a cell phone that night as well.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, again, it's a camera choice. Whatever you have on you, is the best that you have on you. Although I have to say, I've been looking at some of the Hurricane Harvey footage, and I'm happy to see drone footage is being utilized to capture.
Yeah, I saw some in Houston. Not during the storm. Now this is aftermath drone footage.
Right,
Do not send your don't send your drone up in the middle of a hurricane. It will not come back.
Or do it. It's gonna make for some sweet footage until it gets wrecked. Maybe they'll send it over someplace. They'll keep on recording. You get some.
We'll
really
just
great
wait
footage.
for Casey to do that one. Casey will send some video, and we'll be able to talk about that one of these days.
That's right.
Bound to happen.
No, but yeah, I'm happy to see the drone footage being used. Although I know from myself, I've been in Houston. My family, my wife's family is in Houston. They're all safe, by the way. But the drone, if people are following the rules, they have to, there's an airspace around Houston that they can't really fly a drone around. So hopefully nobody's going to get in trouble flying their drone footage, trying to get, reconnaissance footage of the disaster. But good to see it being used, because I think this is one of the main things where a drone is perfect for, either looking for survivors or surveying the damage or a host of other things. I mean, this is perfect, A1 perfect drone, excuse to have a drone. If you got a drone, you are like #1 in my book. So
yeah, this is one of the rare times, right? I agree. This is one of the times I wish I did have something like it. Well, I'm in Hawaii, so I'm pretty safe here from this particular storm. But it would be a really nice, from this particular storm.
As soon as
but
the
it would be a great
erupts
tool.
And there's lava everywhere, you use that drone to go over the lava. It'll be great.
There you go. Yeah.
So, Jane, is there anything else you want to say about covering the storm? Obviously Marcus talked about this is not the friendly neighborhood hurricane. This is not going to be your first timer hurricane. This is going to be your more experienced hurricane. Have you lived through other hurricanes before? Do you feel prepared for this? How have you handled sort of just devastation?
To be honest, this is my first hurricane. So
Not by choice, I'm sure.
Yes, not by choice. But you know, I'm very fortunate that where we were at, the danger was almost in a way like to a minimal. But like Marcus said earlier, there were other reporters that were on TV that were actually on site in the most heavily devastated areas during the time that the hurricane was making a landfall, and you could see them like struggling, and I was just, you know, watching them and fearful for their lives because they were in the thick of things. So you know, that's one of the challenges of, you know, trying to do coverage is you want to get the best shots, you want to get the most dramatic scenes, but then at the same time you have to find the balance of not putting yourself in, you know, harm's way, you know, because you know, there's only so much you can do to get that perfect story, you know, and it shouldn't be at the cost of your own life.
Right. Yeah, I agree. Unless it's a great story, in which case, go ahead. You know, I mean, your life is worth it. So, I mean, you know, if it's a really great story, no, I'm just kidding. Your life is never worth a story. All right, well, I guess let's go ahead and move on from hurricane stuff. If you can stick around with us, Jane, I'd appreciate it. If not, so be it. I understand you got a lot of stuff on your plate, being surrounded by a hurricane and all. But we're going to move on to our next topic. This week, we're talking about, of course, the eternal full frame versus micro four thirds versus crop sensor debate. And this is a debate I really wish that Zach was on here for, so you know we could talk about this, but it's just gonna have.
Well, he can hold up the his visual aids as he loves to do.
Oh my goodness, gosh, that guy.
See you guys. Thank you so much.
All right, Jane. See you later.
Right. Okay. Bye.
Bye. All right, those who are listening, you're stuck with me and Ron this week, so buckle down and get on the Ron train, the Ron and Dave train. All right, so again, every time I bring up the Panasonic GH5, my camera of choice, I have it around here somewhere. You know, Zach likes to, of course, lambast me because the sensor is smaller than a full frame sensor. It's a micro four thirds sensor.
But it's smaller than a crop sensor as well.
Is it smaller than a crop sensor? I thought it was bigger than a crop sensor.
Oh, I don't know. Well,
we are just batting out of the park in terms of our knowledge here. But you know, again, he likes to kind of give me a hard time because you know, the sensor is smaller than the full frame sensor. But you know, I don't really think that affects my ability to take pictures. Yeah, there are of course some limitations with using the smaller sensor, but I don't think there are so much limitations in what I can get, you know, and pull out of the actual camera creatively. What do you think about this whole debate? I mean, do you have a sort of a dog in this fight, or you don't?
Honestly, the last time I shot a full frame camera was when I had film.
Yeah.
The closest I've come was when my Canon 1D Mark II was a 1.3 crop factor. And everything else I've shot has been 1.6. I'm reading the SLR Lounge website here. It says that a micro four thirds has a crop factor of 2. So that would be smaller than the 1.6 crop of a APS-C size, which is what I shoot with. Right. So yeah, micro four thirds is a smaller. I thought it was, and here we have proof right here. It's a crop factor of 2 rather than 1.6. Yeah, no, honestly,
it makes sense. Every single lens I own, you know, it's like it's half of what would be a normal sensor, but it gives you that, you know, it's the same equivalent to the full frame. So yeah, the crop sensor 2 makes sense.
Right. Now, as far as quality goes, I was listening to the Australian guy, Matt Granger. Matt Granger was explaining about sensor size and what it means, because he has a girl on there that doesn't know anything about photography. And she asked him, golly, what's the difference between full frame and medium format and blah, blah, blah. And he says, well, he starts to go on about the quality and the lighting. And then he says, well, actually, the newer crop sensors are better than the old full frames. And well, actually, the medium formats are not that good. And such. Well, actually, I guess there really is no big deal. And honestly, that's the way I feel about it. When I look at a picture, a photograph, I can't tell what was used to take the photograph. If it's a good photograph, it's a good photograph. If it was a cell phone photograph, if it was a medium format, if it was film, if it was digital, I don't know. If it's a good photograph, I can't see the problem. If you want to shoot Micro Four Thirds, you go for it. It's a smaller form factor. It's less weight. It's easier to carry around with, easier to deal with. I don't see the point. Every time I think about going full frame because, oh, there's a deal on this camera, and I just say, why? What am I going to shoot with that I can't shoot with what I have right now? And will it make any difference? And if it does, will it make that much of a difference that I have to spend money? And the answer is always no. Keep what you got. You're doing fine.
Yeah, I mean, considering, and again, there's a great illustration here on the SLR Lounge website that I saw. 11 key differences. I don't know if you're looking at the same one.
That's the same one I'm looking at, correct?
Okay, yes, so it shows, again, the differences between all the different sensor sizes. And so I think it's really, showing to kind of say, see just how small Micro Four Thirds is compared to every other sensor size out there. I mean, it's barely, I think it's probably like 1/9 the size of a medium format sensor. Yeah. So, me personally, it's not really about the sensor size when I was choosing which camera system to purchase. I mean, I don't have anything against full frame or Micro Four Thirds or APS-C or medium format. I care less what sensor is in your camera. It's what does that camera give me the capability to do? And
100%.
I can see definitely the advantage of having 35mm. I own 35mm full frame size with my Canon 5D Mark II. Had a great lens system, had great bokeh, shot beautiful imagery. But the trade-off between that camera system, which was full frame, and my new camera system, which is Micro Four Thirds, is night and day. And it's so much better on the Micro Four Thirds side that I'm okay with losing a little bit of the depth of field capability for all the different things that I get from going Micro Four Thirds. So, you're talking about lighter body, lighter camera lenses. The whole kit is about, I would say, maybe a quarter or a third the weight and size of my full frame kit. That and price is much more reasonable with the Micro Four Thirds system, and capability just downright is, being able to shoot 4K, being able to have a fully articulating sensor, having just a mirrorless system that allows for a lot more creativity and flexibility with regard to focus and with regard to being able to see your exposure. I mean, mirrorless is just that much more robust and capable than mirror, I think, are. And I think mirrored cameras, although you see they're still popular today with the release of the D850, and they'll probably still be around for a long time, I think that, there's a big divide now between the mirrored cameras and the mirrorless cameras. They're almost two different subsets of like our genre or our field,
No, I think you're right. I do think that mirrors are on their way out. And I do believe mirrorless is the wave of the future. But currently, I'm not jumping ship just yet to, like what you did, doing a drastic change, just because I have so much invested in my current gear. And I enjoy also mirrorless battery life is a concern for me.
Mm-hmm.
That's my current beef right now.
Yeah, I would say battery life for the 5D Mark II was beautiful. I mean, it was a great battery life. I have a couple batteries and they would last forever. And I'd leave a battery in there and, my camera would sit on a shelf for, 6 months. Excuse me. I come back, I pick it up, take a few shots of my family or something or whatever, the sunset. It's working just fine. It's got like 2/3 of a charge still. It's great. Now, I'm not saying, I think the mirrorless, battery system, at least with the Panasonics, I think they're great. I think that they hold a charge for a long time. And, I've got, 4 or 5 batteries for the Panasonic. But, I mean, I can usually get through a day with like 1 or 2 batteries and it's not a big deal. I mean, I'd say it's more energy intensive because you're running that screen, vice just looking through a mirror. But, again, like I said, I think it's worth it. And I think if you're smart and you manage your energy, efficiently, you have auto off, or if you just turn out your camera off when you're not shooting for a while, it's not really a big deal. Nothing I can't manage. I've never felt like I haven't had enough juice to get me through a shoot. And again, the whole system is so much smaller that my kit is so much smaller that I have much more room for batteries anyways. And plus, if I really want to, I could throw a battery grip on there and get a little more extra battery life. Not a big deal.
With your Panasonic system, what is your maximum aperture that you guys have with your lenses over there?
Well, I've got a let me grab it here. I think it is my smallest aperture lens, the 25 millimeter, and this is an f. Let me make sure. I haven't used this lens in a while. I think it's like it's either a 1.4 or a 1.2 or something. It's a okay, a 1.7, 1.7.
Well, that's weird. 1.7.
So there's actually a 1.4 version of this lens, but it costs like $1,000 more. So I was like, right. I'm good. This gets me where I need to be. So yeah, there's
25 millimeter full frame equivalent would be a 50 millimeter lens. Then is that what you perceive it to be as well?
This is equivalent to a nifty 50. You know, right. Actually, I think I've got my. Yeah, let me grab my 50 millimeter lens. Let me just show you the size difference.
All right.
Ron,
well, Dave does that
for a second.
Yeah. While Dave does that, we'll talk about lenses that I own that I love. I have a 51.4, which is probably, I wonder how it compares with Dave's cropped 2x sensor with my 1.6. I wonder how the two would compare. Keeping in mind, of course, that my 50 millimeter is something like, I don't know, has anybody had to multiply 1.6? Something like 75 millimeter lens or something on a crop sensor. So to get 50 with my system, I think I have to use a, I don't know, I have a 35 f2.0 as well that I really love.
Yeah. I just want to show the audience really quick the difference between my Micro Four Thirds lens and my full frame lens. So again, here is my Micro Four Thirds lens, if you're looking at it.
For those of you on YouTube.
Sorry about Ron's wind noise. So this is my Micro Four Thirds lens again. And now here is my 50 millimeter lens from for my full frame. What was my Canon 5D Mark II? So
is that a 51.4?
It's a 1.4. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've got.
So you can see there, it's like nearly, I would say, almost a third of the size, almost a quarter of size of the other body. I'm sorry, of the other lens, and it's. Capability wise, it's almost equivalent capability, So again, this is the trade-off you're making. Yeah, you are losing again the sensor size, but you're getting a system that, like for instance, all my lenses together and my camera body, it's still maybe half the weight, or if not less, than my full 5D Mark II kit. And, when you're carrying that kit like all day, like for instance, we're talking about the Hurricane. I mean, I would much rather be slogging through the waters and the hurricane and stuff, carrying my personal kit in my bag, because it's my GH kit, than my 5D kit, because it's like it's already taken a toll on you. Just being a part of the hurricane and doing your job. You want something that's not going to. Just the weight of it is going to make it that much harder to do your job. So
I think my camera backpack weighs about 30 pounds, 35 pounds. Yeah, so that's an awful lot of weight to be carrying around. That's all, of course, regular glass, not Micro Four Thirds. I'm sure you could save a lot of weight and space.
Yeah. No, trust me, from somebody, like I've hauled around my full frame kit on multiple different camera systems, multiple different camera bags, and it really digs into your shoulders after a while, and I've never had that same feeling with the Micro Four Third kit. I mean, eventually, if I carried this kit around long enough, I probably would, again, start to feel the fatigue just from length of time, because it is weight. But yeah, no, I mean, I can fit, a good majority of my kit into a camera bag that's this size, which if you see it on the YouTube, it's just it's a little teeny camera bag, really, compared to your big camera bags. I can stick my camera body and two.
Yeah, he's showing for those of you watching the audio version, that is about the size of a lunchbox he just held up.
Mm-hmm. I mean, this is a little, nothing big deal, point and shoot camera bag, pretty much. It's you find any old store, and I can stick a camera body and two lenses and memory cards and battery. I don't even really carry around memory cards anymore. I've got two 256 gigabyte memory cards, and that's the great thing I love about the Panasonic GH5. It's got the two camera slots or two memory card slots, so I have all my memory card I need in the camera right there. So I'm not worried about swapping out memory cards at any time. I've got the two slots. I know there's people who say like, oh, I keep 27 8 GB cards because I don't want to lose anything. Like, I don't want to deal with a bunch of memory cards.
I used to be like that as well. Back when the 1 gig cards were standard, or 256 megabyte cards were standard, 512 megabyte cards. I was one of those guys that had 10, 20 cards with me at all times.
I don't know. I trust memory. I trust the manufacturers in making it. And again, I'm not like storing every single thing I shoot on there as my archive,
Right.
I shoot for a day and I download, and then it's like I use that card again. It's no different than using any other size card.
And personally, when I'm out shooting an assignment and I have my full kit with me, I'm carrying a tripod, or in my last assignment, I had carried 2 tripods, one for video and one for stills. I just did, okay? Anyway, it's a lot of weight, and not that I can't handle it, but it sure does feel nice to kick it off at the end of the day, to unload all that stuff at the end of the day. Where you're a heck of a salesman, Dave, because now I'm thinking about selling everything I own and getting a GH5.
I tell you, again, I mean, it's a tough thing, for me. Like, I didn't just do it immediately, right? I bought the Panasonic GH4 because I was looking for primarily a video camera. I just wanted something that would allow me to shoot 4K that wasn't going to break the bank. And, back in, 2014, I believe. Yeah, I want to say 2014. This was one of the few cameras that shot 4K that was generally affordable. It was under $2,000 at the time, which was, there were a subset of 4K cameras that could do that, but not very many. But I still wanted sort of the SLR style of camera. So I bought really the GH4 to be not a replacement for my 5D Mark II at all, no, but just more of a video system that would allow me to shoot 4K, because of course Canon was dragging their feet. Canon didn't come out with 4K on any of their camera systems, and only have now barely begun doing it on a few camera systems. So Canon was letting me down. And so I was just looking for something that, again, was lightweight, could shoot 4K, and was pretty well regarded. And so the GH4 came out, and it became, just simply a video system. I bought a couple cheap lenses for it, nothing special, some literally kit basically style lenses. And that's all that was to it. But then what I started realizing was I was using my GH4 much more than I was using my Canon 5D Mark II. Like, I wasn't just shooting video with it. I found that, I was able to shoot stills with it to a degree that I was happy with, in terms of giving me quality, stills. I would say the 5D, still had, the advantage of being a better still camera, hands down. But, the GH4, talk about having the camera you have with you. It was the camera I had with me most of the time, so it became the camera I used for my stills as well. And then I started to really fall in love with the articulating viewfinder and being able to just get all the angles I wanted without having to like get on my belly or get, or guess by sticking the camera above my head. So I really fell in love with that feature. So again, although it may not have been as strong a still camera as the 5D Mark II, it won me over thanks to its other features and became sort of my camera of choice. So then when the GH5 was announced, and that camera really upped the game with a bigger sensor size and more features and just a better build quality overall, I was like, okay, this is it. I'm gonna go full micro 4/3. Now it helped that one of my main camera lenses for my 5D Mark II was starting to fail, my 24-105.
Yeah. So
if you know anything, this is like the bread and butter lens that everybody you want to have. And
mine's broken too.
Oh geez, that sucks. Because they don't fix that anymore. I had I had like a Mark I or something like that, or Mark II. Anyways, like Canon stopped supporting lenses after a while, in case you didn't know, in terms of repair. And I looked at some stuff online. It would have been pretty expensive for me to repair this lens. So I said to myself, you know, because I mean, if I'm going to upgrade this lens, I got to upgrade to the, you know, the 5D Mark IV or 5D Mark III or something like that. I want to upgrade my camera too, you know. And I tell you, you know what the kicker was, what pushed me over was the 5D Mark IV. The 5D Mark IV did not have, or it had 4K video shooting capability.
Cropped,
but it was so much, it was cropped, right? It was cropped, and the actual file you got out of the camera was so much larger and more difficult to use than the 4K file from the Micro Four Thirds from the Panasonic, just because of the way they compressed them. So it got some really terrible reviews with regard to video shooting capability. And it actually got some middling reviews with regard to photo. So I was like, you know what? I could spend, you know, $4,000 or whatever it was for the 5D Mark IV. I could spend another $2,000 for, you know, this, you know, the upgraded 24-105 lens, or I could save myself a boatload of cash. I could sell all my camera equipment and invest fully in GH5. And that's what I did. Yeah. And honestly, you know, I was able to pay for the majority of my GH5 with the selling off of all this old camera gear that was really collecting dust anyways, because I wasn't using it nearly as much. And, you know, went full GH5, got the body for about $2,000, got the lenses for another $2,000 or so. And, you know, that was about it. You know, I got got the best, brand newest GH5 lenses. So, you know, as far as I'm concerned, this camera kit I currently have with the GH5 could do everything the Panasonic, or again, everything the Canon kit can do. It's, you know, I got the full gamut of lenses that I can do everything I need to do with, along with a great camera body that, you know, can shoot great 4K and has an articulating sensor that has a lot of great features. You know, that's like I hear all the time, like, oh, wow, Nikon has this feature, or Canon just came out with this feature. I'm like, dude, I've been using these features on the Panasonic camera for years. You know, Panasonic is so ahead of the game with regard to their features. Same thing as Sony. Sony is so ahead of the game compared to these other manufacturers. Both of them, I think, because I don't know, I think they're more adventurous. I think they're willing to, you know, do what they need to do to kind of gain market share. And you just get these, you know, really interesting stuff comes out. I personally prefer my Panasonic kit over the Sony stuff, but, you know, I'm pretty impressed with what Sony's doing with their line. I think if I weren't Panasonic, I'd probably go Sony.
The Sony mirrorless system really, really fantastic. I like the low light performance of the what do they call that one? The
A7S.
The A7S Mark II.
Right.
I've seen still, it's incredible. The low light performance is so incredible, and especially as photojournalists, that so much of what we shoot is in the shadows. That is a really important feature to have for us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I got to use the Sony A7S Mark II just to play with it for a little bit. And it's a great camera. A lot of great stuff there.
Yeah, full frame, and it's, the performance is incredible.
Yeah. Yeah, although
mirrorless, the bad battery life is all, the
bad battery life is a big deal. Although I don't like their button layout or their menu system. I think that needs a little bit of tweaking. But, you know, again, the cameras are really great. If I were to go with anything Sony, I'd probably go with like the A7R or even the A9. I think that's a great camera.
The A9 looks really incredible. I've really liked the reviews. When I was a film shooter, I was a Minolta man. But when I went digital, I went Canon, and I got rid of all of my Minolta lenses, which is too bad because they would work with the Sony.
Yeah.
Sony Alpha line. That's correct. Yep.
Yep. Well, my first camera after, like, I bought a Canon Digital Rebel. That was my first digital camera. And then I upgraded from that to the Sony Alpha 100, which was the first Sony DSLR that came out. Yeah. And I got that because it had the in-camera, like, sensor cleaning capability. It vibrated the sensor. Because that was the biggest thing.
That was a big deal. That's right.
Oh, yeah. Such a pain in the butt when you get, like, a big chunk of
I had big swabs. Well, I had a big swab. It had the solution, the cleaning solution.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to meticulously put the camera in bulb mode and then lock it. Yeah, exactly. The shaking the sensor. Yeah. What a novel idea that was.
Oh, yeah. That's something I'm glad I don't have to deal with anymore. I think the you know, all the camera manufacturers nowadays do it. And I haven't had any issues with it with the Panasonic, thankfully. Right. Hopefully I don't have to ever go in there and clean that, because I'd like so meticulously clean the sensor, and I'd look at the, you know, I'd take a special like test pick and there'd still be like dirt or something or whatever, or a hair. And that was always so infuriating because it never got like fully clean.
I recently had my lens, my sensor cleaned by Canon here in Hawaii. There's a Canon service center on Ward Avenue. Anybody's in the neighborhood. And they cleaned it for, I think they charged me $50 to clean my sensor. I said, well, that's fine. Can you show me a before and after sample so I can see how clean you got it? And they did. They provided me with test shots. It's a computer thing they do that shows the sensor quality before and after, and it is markedly improved through the $50 cleaning. So it's very nice. Even with the sensor cleaning technology built in, it's still nice to have a professionally cleaned sensor every now and then. Yeah,
no, absolutely. I mean, if it ever becomes an issue on my camera, I'll definitely get cleaned by a professional. Like I said, I've tried it myself. Not really happy with the results. So I would say, with regard to camera technology, I'm glad Nikon is sort of taking a step up and applying some of the sort of lessons learned from other manufacturers in their new camera, the Nikon D850. I'll be honest, I haven't really been excited about any Nikon cameras in the past decade or so, but the D850 is a pretty exciting camera. I think it's doing a lot of things right. I think if I were a Nikon shooter, which I have been in the past, not personally, but for work, then this would be a camera that I would seriously consider upgrading to. I think it does a lot of things right, and I think it should definitely give Canon a wake-up call, especially with the things like the 4K. If I were a man who had to choose between Canon and Nikon, and this was one of my options, I would be very hard pressed to choose a Canon equivalent of the same price, because of
the price is incredible. Was it $3,300, something like that?
Something like that. Yeah.
Less
than the 5D Mark IV.
Right. What a bargain! The capabilities that they're pushing out is so incredible. The price is so low. What a awesome camera.
Well, that's
any
what they
Nikon shooter. That's
with
exactly
Sony,
right.
Which is good. Competition is good.
I want more competition. We're doing we're doing really great right now with the camera manufacturers. That's why I keep holding on to hope against hope that Canon will get their act together and give me exactly what I want. I know it's a matter of time, so right now I'm biding my time.
Yeah.
Considering what you were saying about the GH4 being your primarily for video, and then it was okay for stills, good enough. That does bring me back to what I always say. I'm a photographer first, and my video has to be good enough, but I want my stills to be impeccable.
Right.
That's where I'm at. I'm a little bit flip side of what you're doing. Even though what most of my life these days is video, it's not where my heart and soul is. My heart and soul is as a still photographer. Sure, so that's still for my own sense of self-worth. I prefer still images.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I love a good stills camera, and that's why I waited till the GH5 before I went full Panasonic. I still had my Canon 5D Mark II up until the Panasonic GH5 came out, because I cared about the quality of still imagery, and I think no one does it better than Canon when you're talking about still photography. But when the GH5 came out and it had 20 megapixel sensor and it had a bunch of other improvements, I was like, okay, Panasonic is taking still photography almost as seriously as it does video. It was good enough for me.
Right.
Decision that much easier. And like I said, honestly, there isn't really much that I miss from from the Canon side. I'm fully won over by what Panasonic can do with both photo and video. And that's good enough for me. But again, I'm not tied to any camera manufacturer ever.
Right.
If a couple of years down the road, when I'm looking to maybe upgrade, Canon does something that just redeems itself, I may go back to Canon. I may go back to full frame. I am not. I may go back to micro 4/3. I may go down something. If the camera manufacturer can make a camera that has the features that I want, I will go with that camera manufacturer. If tomorrow another camera manufacturer comes out with a micro 4/3 or DSLR camera that shoots 8K, and it does it at a price that's equivalent or cheaper than what I can get currently, I might go with that manufacturer. I mean, but again, that goes to my priorities. My priorities right now are video because I have children and I want to videotape them and I want to capture those memories and I want to capture them in the highest quality possible. And if I can do it with a camera that shoots 8K and is, $1,000 or something, and like the quality is good, if you're a camera manufacturer and you want to make a name for yourself right now, that's one way to do it. Come out with find the next buzzworthy, capable, feature, the bullet point, sell it at a camera body that's less than everybody else. You're going to make a name for yourself. But that's a tall order. So I think for right now, I'm good with what I have. And it's interesting to see where the space will go next. I like the fact that Nikon is thinking about 8K. They got the 8K time lapse. And I'd love to have a 45 megapixel camera. I mean, that's.
Yeah, the camera is incredible. Yeah, but like I said, okay, Nikon did that. Canon will come out with their rebuttal. It'll just go. I understand your point about not being tied to a camera system, and it's good you have that flexibility. With me, since I've been digital, I've been Canon. I'm gonna, just because of my lens situation, I don't want to keep trading things in. I'm not willing to be as flexible as you are. I want to stay with what I have, and I want to improve if it's worth improving to.
Well, I mean, did you recently buy any of those lenses, or have they owned them for years?
I recently bought my 35 2.0 was my recent one.
Okay.
And I did pick up a spare 85 1.8.
Because I'll tell you, honestly, almost all my lenses were probably about 8 years old,
right,
if not older. So like they were getting to the point where either I was going to upgrade them or I was going to, I mean, they may not have been, the bestest quality for the bestest camera. So I was getting to a point where it was like, yes, I had a lot of lenses, but it honestly wasn't too big a deal to sell them. I got a decent price for them. I would recommend selling them to some of these forums that sell camera gear. If I was trying to sell it to Adorama.
No, they won't give you that. They'll give you less than that you can get on the open market. Of course, they have to make a profit when they sell it too.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily deride them. I think they offer a decent service, but they will give you far less than what you can get by selling it on the open market. But I have sold camera gear on the open market and gotten burned by it, which is why I, gave Adorama a chance. And the experience wasn't too bad. I will have to say, if you plan on selling via Adorama, know this. Like, for instance, what they'll do is they'll say, like, send us all your camera gear. We'll review it. We'll evaluate it. And we'll give you a price for what it's worth. I'm like, okay, sounds good. They gave me a sticker, made it very easy for me to ship it to them. I threw all my camera gear that was left over that I had already sold into the box, shipped it to them, and they said, okay, here is your quote for all your camera gear. It's this one number. I'm like, okay, well, like, what would you give me for each individual item? Like, we can't tell you that. We're not going to tell you what we gave you. We're going to tell you this one quote, and that's it. If you don't want it, we'll ship it back to you. So I was like, all right. So I mean, it was lower than what I wanted, but considering the fact that I didn't really want to deal with the equipment anymore. Right. And again, they took what they did was, because I was also buying equipment at the same time as I was turning in equipment, they gave me a little bit more because they knew like this money was going back to them essentially for this equipment. So they gave me a little bit more of a discount on the new equipment, which wasn't bad. Had I do it all over again, I don't know. I probably would, because like I said, like my camera was, everything was starting to break. So this stuff was either broken or on the verge of breaking. So, I was okay with it going away.
Good point. Good point.
But yeah, like I said, I think we've driven this topic into the ground. Unless there's anything else you want to say about it.
Let's move on to the film scanner.
Yes, the film scanner. So speaking of the D850, they came out with a neat little attachment that I think is, pretty neat. Like, honestly, like, this is something, I'm not going to buy the camera, but I wish this attachment was on more cameras, because it's just so neat. But it allows you to attach this device to the front of your camera, and it allows you to scan film. Obviously, the Nikon D850 has a 45.7 megapixel sensor. So that's a pretty high sensor, and it's pretty good for, you know, scanning film. Essentially, it's essentially like a little pocket scanner. Now, as someone who's had to scan in film and scanned in film, you know, early on in my career, being able to just like run it through a camera and be able, you know, snap pictures as quickly as you can scan, that's a godsend in my opinion. Yeah. Because I mean, I've dealt with like these slow ass film scanners where, you know, you got to put the camera, you got to put the film into a special tray, and then you got to slide it into the scanner, and then it's
never again.
Oh my gosh, it takes forever. And
no, thank you, sir.
And you got to clean those, you know, the negatives like super duper clean. Otherwise, you might get go through all that scanning process. It takes 5 minutes.
That's right.
Get a little dust, a little piece of hair. Oh my gosh. So
I mean, no, this new attachment really nice. Yeah, it was really save people a lot of trouble if you have that situation where you need to take care of that, which is the boat I'm not in anymore. So it doesn't really matter to me. But I do see it as a great piece of technology.
You got film left over, right? In shoe boxes or somewhere? Or...
No, sir. Right? All my film is gone. All lost.
Oh.
I lost all my film in 1999. All my film was all destroyed. Yeah, I have no film records, and all my digital was wiped out in 2008. Or 2009. I lost all my digital. So I was reborn again when I started photography again around 2010 or so. When I was reborn. So I'm a new person. This is my third iteration of my photographic life.
How do you think you're going to lose it all this time?
Oh, you never know. I'll probably drop it in a toilet like I do my cell phones.
Yeah, just drop your hard drive in a toilet.
Yeah, bound to happen.
So, like, how did you lose everything twice?
The film was when I trusted it with a young lady in Dallas, Texas. I left to go to Hawaii. I left all my stuff in her garage, and she sold her house and did not bother taking my stuff with her out of the garage. So all my film was all gone. My Marine Corps stuff, my Japanese stuff, all my personal belongings that I did not carry on my back to Hawaii were gone. And then my digital was stolen out of my van when I lost I had my hard drive. I was doing I did a grandmother's grandson's first year birthday. And I went into the house with my deliverables, and I left everything in the car. I brought my hard drive in case she wanted to see different samples of other stuff I had done. So my terabyte hard drive I had with me was in my van as well with all my camera stuff. And I came back to my vandalized van and missing gear. So that was the end of my digital life.
Wait, so your whole archive fit on a 1 terabyte hard drive?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, well, because I was new to digital. I didn't start digital until I don't know what year it was. 2005. I started digital. Right? Yeah, that's true.
Okay. So, as someone who's lost their collection twice, what are you doing to safeguard your collection today?
Well, now we have Amazon backup. I have Amazon backup, which is unlimited photo storage. Not video, but like I said, most of my stuff is photo anyway. My video, the only video that I care about is for the station, and they back that stuff up anyway. Yeah. So I'm not worried about that. My personal work is all on. I do have a offsite storage, in addition to my hard drive, and then I also have the Amazon backup, and I have my Prime photos, but those are smaller quality. They are not full size, but Amazon is backing up my stuff full size for free because I'm a Prime subscriber.
That's right. Yeah, I was taking advantage of that, you know, video, photo, unlimited backup for a while, and then they said, "Oh no, sorry, we're going to take that service away." So I was like, "Damn it!" And I got to find someplace else because I was using CrashPlan, and CrashPlan was great, but they just recently announced that they're going to stop doing storage.
Well, for consumers, they're still going to do business, right?
Right, but for twice as much per month.
Correct.
So yeah, you know, I don't know.
But your Amazon video, your video is still with Amazon, right? You just can't add more to it, right?
I don't know. I hope so. I hope like they keep what's on there. Yeah. I don't know. Hopefully they don't. When I check
my yeah, right. That's another problem. When I check my Amazon storage, it says that I'm over on my all file types, but that my photo is unlimited, so I can keep adding to that. But they won't add documents or what have you on my all file types thing because of my video that I do have there still.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you know, with regard to backing up photos, there's so many more resources nowadays, and it's so much easier and so much cheaper to back up photos. Google, like I got my Google Drive account, and I paid for extra storage on Google, right? Because I was using Google as a photo backup service, but I didn't feel like paying for it anymore. But again, I had over the like 15 gigabytes of space, right? Well, what I did was I told Google, okay, Google, you can downsize my photos to this high quality JPEG, whatever version of it, you know, but it allows me to have free unlimited photo storage because, you know, I say, okay, go ahead and downsize it to whatever, you know, it's still like high quality JPEG, you know, but it's a slightly more compressed version. So, you know, for the most part, it's, you know, it's not like my main source backup by any means, but it is another resource by which I can easily just throw imagery on, and it's free. So that's something I use. But again, you can't just have just one service. Whether or not I use CrashPlan or continue to use it, I don't know. I may end up looking for another service, or I may end up just, you know, putting stuff onto hard drives and trying to put hard drives in different locations, you know?
Yeah, I recommend highly not keeping all your eggs in one basket.
When is it a good idea to put all your eggs in one basket ever, Ron?
If you only own one basket.
Yeah, I guess. But then again, leave some eggs, put some eggs in the basket, move the eggs, come get the rest of the eggs. That's how I would. But anyways, yeah, I like this film scanner. I think it's a neat device. Like I said, I would love to see this same type of technology on, you know, my Panasonic camera. Although it's not going to give me as high quality scans of the negative, I still think like a 20 megapixel scan would be fine, you know, for like 90% of what you're trying to doing. I think, you know, this is a great resource for doing negatives. And, you know, I think it's good enough quality to do archival negatives in a lot of cases. I don't know what, you know, my film scanner used to scan at, but I got to imagine 45 megapixels is enough of a resolution to capture all the detail of a negative. And I still have my film from my Marine Corps days from when I first started shooting film that, you know, I would, you know, not really looking back at it too often, but honestly, if I just had a film scanner lying around, which is what this, you know, attachment would allow, I'd probably scan some negatives that maybe I didn't scan back in the day. Cause I did scan a lot of my stuff when I was in the Marine Corps, when I had access to a film scanner, because I want to archive it. But, you know, there might be some things I missed back in the day, but, you know, It is a need to have. And if you still shoot film, I don't know why you would need this, because you have a camera that shoots high quality digital stills. But if you shoot film and digital, this could be something that, you know, you might find useful. So, again, it's neat to see Nikon at least providing a service, albeit a niche one, to a small group, but providing that service to people who might want to use it.
Yep.
Not you, but maybe other people.
Some people. No, and I agree. It's a very useful tool. I think the fact that they even thought of doing this, nobody else came up with this idea. This is brilliant. I think it's a really great. I think it shows innovation on Nikon's part. I think it shows that they still care about their users. They're coming with ideas that that it's useful for a small portion of their product of their consumers. So no, hats off to Nikon for doing this.
Yeah, no, I give them kudos. Good job, Nikon. All right, well, that's pretty much been the show. That's been our topic for this week. Ron, is there anything out there that you've seen in the world of visual journalism that you want to plug? Anything you've seen out there of interest?
Well, as a matter of fact, Dave, as it happens, Eagle News' Washington, D.C. Bureau will be broadcasting their 200th episode soon. And I do believe we have a very special guest going to be profiled on that show. I think you may be well acquainted with him. His name is David J. Murphy. So when that's available.
Who, me? Yes, that's right. Well, I was interviewed for your show. I'm interested to see. When will that be up?
I don't know when the 200th episode is right now. It might have already been broadcast. I haven't seen the digital file yet. Oh, but just to let you know, we cut you up into 5 pieces, so you'll be actually spread over 5 different shows. But
hey,
you did make the 200th episode. It was it was a tough. There was a lot of competition for the 200th episode, but you made the cut.
Wow, I'm honored.
Yeah. So make sure we post that on the website when it becomes available, so you can see what Filipinos have to say about David J. Murphy.
Will Filipinos get to say something about me?
Indeed, they will, sir. The comments are not disabled for this one.
Oh my gosh, they'll be like, "Why are you bringing that white gringo on our program? What does he have to do with photography? Get him off! Get him off the show." Okay, great. Well, I'm excited to see how that'll turn out. Always fun to participate with you and hang out with you on some stuff like that.
Yep.
I do want to give a shout out to Mike Sharkey James, panelist who's been on the show a couple times. He just started a brand new podcast called the No Name Photo Show. You can go check that out. Just search No Name Photo Show on Google search or whatever. They got a YouTube channel, Facebook, all the stuff, same stuff that we do. It's a discussion, long form discussion show similar to this really. But it's him and a co-host talking about all the stuff going on in the world of photography. It's a bit different if you've listened to his Petapixel Photography podcast, which is a scripted and edited, finely tuned 20 to 30 minutes of news podcastery. It's just a loose kind of discussion between two guys. So neat to listen to. I say give it a shot, check it out, see if you like it, and then of course come back to Around the Lens after you've listened to that. But give it a listen. So anyways, that's been pretty much our show for this week. I want to thank Marcus and Jane for hopping in for at least a few minutes to talk about their experiences braving the Hurricane Harvey and telling us all about it. Hopefully we can have them on and others from the experience talk more about their experience. I know that the Hurricane Harvey story is definitely going to be around for at least not just this week, but at least probably for the next few weeks, months, and so on as we enter more of the recovery phase of this hurricane. And I'm sure there's going to be tons of interesting, captivating stories that generate from this hurricane. So looking forward to seeing what comes out of it. And we'll talk about it here first on Around the Lens. So again, I've been your host, David J. Murphy, for Ron Hamilton. For Ron Hamilton, I am David J. Murphy. Let me do that again. And this has been Around the Lens, episode 89. And we are out.